If you could sum up my tour guiding skills in 3 words, what would those words be?
Oh, geez, you really cut.
3 words.
Serene, tranquil, and astounding.
Serene, tranquil, and outstanding. Perfect.
Wow.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Patreon vlog and welcome to Kyoto. So I'm currently playing the role of tour guide yet again. I'm playing the role of tour guide on Journey Across Japan with Ellen at the moment, and I'm playing the role of tour guide in real time, real life. This time with my cousin. He's come over from Canada. I'm showing him around for the week through Tokyo, Kyoto and Osaka. I'll introduce my cousin to you at the end of the video. He does look a little bit like James Franco. He's very much the James Franco to my Robert Downey Jr. / Elon Musk, depending on who you think I look like. But in this week's Patreon vlog, I wanted to talk about accommodation because it's a hot topic. Everyone always has lots of questions about it. You guys have sent in, I think, about 24 questions. So I thought I'd talk about where I stay when I'm traveling around, how I choose my hotels and accommodation, and just give you some general tips and advice for when you're traveling around Japan yourself. First things first though, why did I choose this hotel? This hotel is called the Hotel Vista Premio Kyoto. A bit of a bizarre name to name a hotel after a failed Microsoft operating system. Whenever I come to Kyoto, I always try and choose a hotel in the district where all the things are happening, all the good nightlife, all the good bars and restaurants, and that is just across the river from Gion, the Gion Geisha district. Why did I choose this hotel though? Not only is it named after a failed operating system, but it's also reasonably priced, about 9,000 yen a night, which is £70, $90. But it's just a good size, you know, it's a reasonably good size, bigger than any hotel room you'd get in Tokyo for the same cost. And as you can tell, they've kind of put a bit of effort into giving it a nice design. Like, they've got some artwork of Kyoto. They've even got, and I really like this, I think this is probably what sold it to me, they've got shoji sliding doors there. Now, what I found earlier on today is they don't actually move, they're not real sliding doors. They do just cover up the window and look good. And all of a sudden, a beautifully aesthetic looking thing suddenly made me feel quite claustrophobic that I can't actually see outside, but they're nice. They do add a bit of charm to the room, and I guess they're probably hiding a rather crappy looking alleyway out the back of the hotel anyway, so yeah. So once in a while a product comes along that changes the game, like a GoPro or drones, for example, consumer drones. And this, I think this is the next stage. This is the DJI Osmo Pocket, and it's a fully stabilised gimbal camera that quite literally does fit in your pocket. Look at the size of it compared to my hand. Usually when something has the word pocket in it, you find it actually can't fit in your pocket. This really can, and it's fully stabilised. Here we go, switch it on. You can see there. As you can see, as I move this, it's kind of flopping around like a muppet, but it is actually impressively stable. So if I lock onto something, it'll move around, the camera will adjust. The main reason I bought this is just to be inconspicuous, because with this GH5 I can't really walk into a shop and restaurant and start filming unless I've got permission, whereas with this nobody really cares or suspects anything because it's so bloody small. And I think for travel videos in particular it's going to be really useful, but we'll see what it can do later at the end of this video. I'm going to take this out to Philosopher's Path in Kyoto with my cousin and see what we can do with it. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video to see what this can do and to meet my cousin, who looks like James Franco. So the first question is from Simon Dixon, who says, what do you think is the handiest train station to stay near that isn't right in the middle of everything, i.e. Shibuya or Tokyo Station? So I usually stay at one of 3 places in Tokyo, depending on what I'm doing. The first place that I stay, and the place I probably end up the most, is Akasaka, which is a little district right in the middle of Tokyo. It is equidistant between Shibuya and Tokyo Station. It's right next to the Prime Minister's house if you want to see the Prime Minister's house. Above all, it's just a really nice little laid-back neighbourhood. You can get anywhere easily in Tokyo, and it's not touristy. There's no tourists there whatsoever, which is a real bonus for me because it means I don't get stopped in the street every 5 to 10 minutes. But it's got everything you want. Nice restaurants, a British pub, McDonald's, Burger King, sushi. You can get anything you want there. And it's just a nice little district, and it's not too expensive either because it's not too touristy. So I recommend Akasaka. That's my #1 favourite place. The second place I stay the most is Ueno, which is on the east side of town. It's right in the middle of Asakusa and Akihabara, so it's a very popular place to be. I'm very well connected to Tokyo Station, Narita Airport, and for me it's quite near Sendai in the sense that you can go from Ueno straight to Sendai 90 minutes by bullet train, so it's kind of really well connected. When people come to Tokyo, they typically want to spend a lot of time in places like Asakusa and Akihabara, so it's perfect for that. It's on the JR Yamanote line, so you can get to places such as Shibuya, Shinjuku, Harajuku really effortlessly as well. So it's kind of the perfect location. Best of all, pretty cheap as well. Don't know why. I think it's because there's so many hotels in that region that there's just so much competition to keep the prices down. And the third place I stay, and it's mainly because I have a lot of things going on in Shibuya, is Nakameguro, or Meguro, which is on the west side of Tokyo. And it's just really well connected to things on the west side. I think the thing is, with Tokyo, because it's such a bloody large city, you've got to choose which side you want to be on. And when I have friends coming over for 2 weeks, often we start in Tokyo at Ueno, then we go to Kyoto and Osaka, and then we come back to Tokyo for them to fly back home for a few days. And we tend to go to the other side of Tokyo and stay more towards Shibuya, so they can experience the two sides of Tokyo and get a lot of things seen. But those are the three places I recommend. Don't ever stay in Shibuya because the prices are absolutely ridiculous. Like even a cheap, crappy upper hotel with a room that's tiny is going to set you back like $200 a night. So I always avoid Shibuya, and I don't recommend staying near Tokyo Station. There's not really a whole lot going on there, and it's just bloody expensive, so avoid Tokyo Station outright. Paxton says, with regards to capsule hotels, do they offer accommodation for couples? I think it'd be good to save money on a hotel and spend the extra time exploring the local area, but I believe in your previous capsule hotel video, it looks as though men and women are separated. Is this the case for most all capsule hotels? Capsule, I hate the word capsule. Yeah, I mean, I found that they do segregate between men and women because obviously in a capsule hotel, it's mostly businessmen, salarymen that stay there because they kind of got things going on in Tokyo and the price is cheap. A lot of people, I find, tend to go out drinking with work colleagues after work and then just retire to a capsule hotel, and it wouldn't really work having a capsule dorm stuffed full of drunk Japanese salarymen with women in between. It would just be a bit awkward and weird. So they do segregate it. And so if you're going to a capsule hotel as a couple, I would actually avoid it, really. I don't think there's much fun to be had. You're better off just staying in a hostel or just get a business hotel. I don't think I've ever stayed in a capsule or a hostel with a girlfriend or a girl. I'd just go to a business hotel, which is not that much more expensive, so probably a better option. Andrew says, not an entirely accommodation question, but are there places to store luggage in between check-out, check-in? That time between checking out of one place while it's still too early to check into another is perfect for exploring, but having to lug luggage, there's a tongue twister. Lug luggage around would be a pain, as well as taking up unnecessary space on transit. Though it is Japan, you could probably leave your suitcase in the middle of a park and all day and no one would bother it. So actually Japan's really good at this. They understand the logistical nightmare that is lugging luggage around. I mean, it's not uncommon to walk into a hotel lobby and have to snake your way through piles of luggage left behind by travellers, kind of Tetris block style piles of luggage. Most hotels you check out about 11 AM, you hand them over your luggage and they'll keep it for the rest of the day until you come back and get it, and that's something I do. I often do that. Another option though is lockers. Most stations in Japan have lots of lockers, and that's another convenient option as well. So lockers are a good thing to consider. Probably don't be tempted to leave your luggage in a park. Don't succumb to the stresses of lugging luggage. Do put it in a locker or leave it at the hotel, not in the park. Never the park. Eel says, I don't know how much you're into the concept of staying overnight in a bookshop, but I've been really curious about the book and bed chain of accommodation bookshops. They have 3 different locations in Tokyo. Perhaps someone has stayed there in one of them. So I've never stayed at one of these places, but I've read about them and I've always thought about it. Basically, it's like a capsule hotel and a bookshop combined into one. Now, I am somebody who likes books and I do like beds, and together seems like the perfect combination, doesn't it? However, if you look at reviews of it, people seem to find that whilst it's fun at first and a bit gimmicky, the beds themselves aren't overly comfortable, and if you look at it, it does look like you're sleeping on a plank of wood. But one of the most interesting things is you can actually check in there for just an hour and go in, read a book, have a bit of coffee, and then go for a sleep for an hour, and I think it's 580 yen. So it might be good for that, a little nap if you want that in the afternoon. That could be fun, but to stay there for a whole night, I probably wouldn't do it. I probably would avoid it. Ryan says, I'm sure I'm overthinking it and it won't be an issue, but my husband and I are planning visiting Japan soon. And I've wondered if we should expect any issues as 2 dudes sharing one room or bed. Friends sharing a room is probably commonplace, so I'm sure no one will care, but I've little to no clue what LGBT life in Japan is like as a native or a visitor. I can't really speak from personal experience, except for one time when I went to a love hotel with my friend Regan, the vegan. Clever, it rhymes. And we went to make a video just about love hotel culture in Japan. It took us, I think, 3 attempts to get into a love hotel. 2 times they were like, no, you can't come here. 2 guys, no. Which is quite annoying. I don't really see why that's an issue. But anyway, after the 3rd attempt, we were able to get in and film me in a cage, having a whale of a time. But I've actually never heard of any issues before from anyone that I know who's stayed together in a hotel, so I don't think it'll be a problem. Japan's been a lot more open-minded towards the LGBT community in recent years, and yeah, I really don't think you'll have any issues. Joshua says, for people travelling to Japan for the first time, what do you think are the best accommodations to make, i.e. hotels, Airbnb or ryokan? I want to plan a trip for my wife and I to the north of Japan for sightseeing and visiting onsens. I think if you're travelling north Japan, the best two options would be hotels and ryokans. All the best ryokans, traditional Japanese inns that I've stayed at, have all been in North Japan. They've been near Sendai in Akkyu, where Ryota and I went and had to get up really early to film in the hot spring in the morning. Probably the best ryokan I ever stayed at was in Aomori, and it's the one where there were apples. All I can remember, apples. There was apples everywhere and cider. Sounds like a dream I probably had last night. But there was an outdoor hot spring which was absolutely amazing. It was actually built into a waterfall, and I remember again we had to get up at 4 a.m. And film in there before the guests came. But Ryota and I went in at 4 a.m. and filmed this beautiful spring, waterfall coming down. It was very relaxing. We had about 40 minutes in there alone. Very romantic. Even if Ryota nearly did drop my $700 camera into the water, only because I was able to catch it in time did the camera not get fucked. But that was probably my favourite ryokan I stayed at. And if I could recommend one hot spring in Japan, it would be that one. It is a bit out of the way in Aomori, but it's just so bloody good. I've never stayed anywhere quite like it since. But if you're a bit more stretched for time and you're still coming up to Sendai, I would say stay in Akkyu. It's a little hot spring town. They held the G7 economic summit there a few years ago at the hotel we stayed at and filmed at. And it's only about 20 minutes outside of Sendai by car or taxi. And it's just this beautiful resort. You can stroll around it during the day and then you can relax in the onsen during the night. But if you're going to North Japan, it really is kind of something you should do. There's no better way to appreciate the scenery, the natural beauty of the region than staying in a traditional inn. You just don't get that from a normal hotel. Sean says, with all the new restrictions imposed on Airbnb and the similar places, how has that changed this kind of accommodation, especially given Japan in the run-up to the hordes of Olympic tourists? I would say, in the run-up to hordes of Olympic tourists, Airbnb Japan has actually got better. It's got more secure. Now, last year it was an absolute shit show. People that owned Airbnb properties had to register with the local governments and do all this horrible paperwork. And lots of places closed down or lots of people had their accommodation cancelled. This year, though, it's been going a lot more smoothly. And whilst it was a lot of hassle for Airbnb owners to sign up, it was probably for the best just to register them. It was a problem because lots of tourists were coming in, staying in these unregistered Airbnb apartments and just causing all sorts of problems for the locals or people in the apartments next door. It's all sorts of chaos. So it seems a bit more regulated and a lot more secure now. I actually stayed at an Airbnb the other day in a place called Azabujoban. I can never pronounce that. It sounds like a fucking Harry Potter spell. But Azabujoban is kind of near Roppongi. It's quite centrally located. And yeah, for the same price of a Japanese business hotel, for about $100, I got to stay in this relatively spacious apartment. It had a kitchen, it had a sofa, a desk. There was even a rug. And once you've got a rug, you know you're in business, because it usually means the room's a decent size, big enough to fit the fucking rug. Anyway, rugs aside, it was a good room. And it kind of made me realise that Airbnb could be the way forward for me whenever I'm staying in Tokyo. I know Pete Donaldson swears by Airbnb. He always stays in the same accommodation in Shibuya. Definitely an option. I tend to find people either use Airbnb a lot or people just don't use it at all. And I'm still somewhere in between. Personally, though you do get more room with Airbnb, I actually like the security of a hotel a little bit more. And the privacy it brings as well. And ever since I stayed in that Airbnb property in the UK, in Bath, where the door wouldn't open from the inside and I had to wait like 2 hours for somebody to come and let me out, it's kind of been a little bit of a downer on my use of Airbnb. But yeah, if you love Airbnb and you use it, definitely use it in Japan. You'll get a lot of bang for your buck and it's worth checking out. So that's the end of the Q&A now, guys. Thank you to all of you that sent your questions in. Sorry to those of you I wasn't able to answer, but I think we covered a lot of ground there. And if I have missed certain topics, I'll bring them up in later vlogs. But for now, let's take the DJI Osmo Pocket and see what we can do with it down Philosopher's Path. And of course, meet James Franco himself.
It's not too busy today, so this is the Fushimi Inari Shrine, probably the most popular thing in Kyoto. It's like hundreds of shrines going up the mountains, snaking their way up. Perfect for a gimbal. So what do you think of this, Connor?
Oh, this is amazing.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this?
Yeah, 8.5.
8.5?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty decent.
And how have I been as a tour guide?
Amazing. The
Well-
best tour guide. So bad he doesn't sell those services.
Brilliant. If you could sum up my tour guiding skills in 3 words, what would those words be?
Oh, geez, you really cut.
3 words.
Serene, tranquil, and astounding.
Serene, tranquil, and outstanding. Perfect.
Hi, welcome to my channel.
Canadian in Japan. Actually, that's already been done
Oh,
by numerous people.
yeah.
Wow!